Let's see.
This is the Inside Splash, Chicago's premier aquarium podcast. Let's give it up for our hosts, Kyle, Glenn, and Brandon Whitecap. This is the Inside Splash, Chicago's premier aquarium podcast.
What's up, everybody? It's the Inside Splash. How is everybody feeling tonight? Saturday. I'm feeling all right. We got Christian from Salamander Wilds with us today. He is going to be teaching us about salamanders, newts, amphibians, and his progress in the hobby. And as always, we got the famous Brandon Lightcap in the house.
What's going on, guys?
All right. So how is everybody doing? We got a bunch of people already popping up in the chat here. We got Eric Wyrock, Uncle Smiley's Aquariums. We got 186. We got Ed's Aquatic Exotics. Ed's another guy that's really into conservation of goodies. Yeah. Super into CARES conservation, if you've ever heard of the CARES program, which is an aquatic conservation. But we're going to be talking a lot about that. Chicken Bone, what's up, Bobby? What's up, man? Long time no see. Hope you are doing well, and hope the family's doing well, man. It's one of my local buddies. He's a good friend of mine, and Chicken Bone Studios. If you guys are into Fallout stuff, you gotta check him out. Fallout video game. If you guys are into that.
No, that's a good game.
Oh yeah, you are. Yeah.
yes.
Sweet, dude. Sweet, man. I've been a Fallout fan for a long time. That was me and Bobby became friends through the fish stuff, and then we both found out that we were into Fallout and everything, and it was just like it was over, man. We were like, yep, we were meant to be meant to be friends. Love it. But all right, so let's let you start talking, man. We'll let you do an intro. You just kind of explain how you got into what you're doing, what are you doing, and just to let everyone know ahead of time, usually we go 2 hours. Tonight we're going to be doing an hour because our friend Christian here has a really interesting project that he's going to be going out and working on, and I think it adds to the overall story. So if you want to kind of maybe tell a little bit about that, and then kind of go back to the beginning, and then we'll go work back, So
yeah, and then real quick, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yep.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah,
you're jumping, but
I'm froze again, I think.
No, it's coming and going, but
okay, well, I'm having internet issues, guys, apparently. And
yeah,
I'm also not feeling great, so this is if you guys see me bolt at any point in time, that's why.
Well, no worries, man. You kick back and chill. If you need to take off, like I said, dude, we got an hour, so we're
good.
Yeah.
Well, just pre-warning. Yeah, I don't know. I tried switching off the Wi-Fi, but it doesn't seem to be helping at all. I don't know. All right, go ahead.
All right.
Yeah. So my name is Christian from the Salamander Wilds. Got a small YouTube channel, and it's specifically dedicated to newts and salamanders. So a really niche thing, but a lot of people, I think, in the fish hobby, kind of gravitate this way and vice versa, because you can have aquatic setups, obviously for fish, but also for newts. So I actually do have some right here. We could take a look at them in a little bit. But basically, I got started on this, and this is my favorite species that I have here, eastern newts. I think they're probably one of the most popular, most well-known species in the hobby. And that's mostly because of their red effed stage of life. It's a very vivid, bright red-orange amphibian, and very eye-catching. So it's kind of hard to not want one of those. But then eventually, believe it or not, they lose that bright coloration and turn into more of like an aquatic, like olive, sort of yellowish, almost brown adult. So I got into this because when I was little, I went camping, and I don't know, I think it was like upstate New York or something, and really, nice mountainous area, and it was during the summer. So yeah, and that's it right there, right? This was the very first amphibian that I had seen, and imagine you're, really young, you got that childlike innocence, wonder, and everything, and you just see this in the forest out of nowhere, right? I mean, it's kind of hard to describe it any other way, but I was really just hooked on them ever since. So, uh, really, at that point, I had, just like any other kid, I would catch some, frogs and stuff, but these were just the thing that always stuck with me. I've had turtles in the past, and eventually stopped all that stuff just to concentrate on those. And I didn't really get too serious into the conservation part of it until I'd say more recently. I've always had this goal of documenting every species in my state, but it wasn't until, of course, having more resources at my disposal, and then I think the exposure to more of the conservation efforts that actually go on, that I was finally able to actually get the stuff, actually happening. So I'd say maybe 5 years ago, really around the time I started the YouTube channel, is when it became more serious for me, because I really wanted to take the YouTube channel and dedicate it to these animals and really show people like, hey, we have a really amazing creature that, most people don't really know exists. I would say most people I talk to, they think, if they know what a salamander is, they think it's a lizard, right? They walk, if they're terrestrial, like a redback salamander or something like that, right? They walk around on all fours like a lizard. They got a tail, and body shape is pretty much similar, right? But body shape is not equivalent to it being that thing, of course. So the difference between lizards and salamanders, I guess you could say, there's quite a few, obviously, but lifestyle, of course. So you wouldn't see a newt or a salamander basking. In fact, the red eft that was shown on the screen before, you would have to go out after or during a summer shower to find them. They need moisture. So that's one big key difference, right? Whereas a lizard, you're going to see basking in the sun. They need that warmth. A lizard is also considered an amniote. So, right, there's an embryo, amniotic, protective layer around the embryo, whereas newts and salamanders, they don't have that when they lay eggs. It's just, more of a gelatinous sort of egg. And amniotes also are accompanied by a hard shell, right? Like you would, a chicken, for instance. So those are some key details that separate amphibians and reptiles, especially. But lizards and salamanders, scales even, salamanders don't have scales, right? And just kind of drive that home further. Right now is the amphibian migration. So newts are not fish, but they do need aquatic setups depending on the species. So the red F stage that was on screen before.
We have some friends that are just trolling us. He's messing with you. Which I think you got, but
yeah. But you know what? I'm going to drive that point too, because believe it or not, you have a lot of nicknames for salamanders, like the Mexican walking fish, the axolotl, right? But it has that nickname. So there's a lot of misconceptions about newts and salamanders, and I think because a lot of lack of information, silly little nicknames, and when you consider like the popularity of axolotls, I mean, geez, who doesn't know what an axolotl is at this point, right?
Yeah.
But proper care for them. I mean, I couldn't tell you how many times I've seen improper care, and then you drive that to a species like this, where I mean, I've had questions like that. Are they fish? Are they lizards? And things like that. So, sure, got trolled. I'll take it. But in all seriousness, I've had those questions, right?
Yeah.
So, in fact, let's get a quick close up of them real quick. So this is actually my male right here. and then in the back I've got the female. So there's a few key differences with the males in this species. Those hind legs, the males have wider hind legs.
Hold on 1 second. Let me put you on solo.
There you go.
Now everyone can see better.
Yeah. So the males have wider hind legs, and that's for grasping the female during what is known as amplexus. So that's basically the courtship that these newts partake in for breeding. So
is that similar to frogs and toads? Because they do that too, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And it could last for hours too, actually. So
now, do they have the same issue with frogs and toads as far as killing each other during that process sometimes?
In the wild, no. But I have been out there, and I actually have it on video. One of my recent videos that I did during breeding season, the males are super competitive and aggressive, and so they try to pretty much latch onto anything that they can. So they'll latch onto other males. They'll let go. They'll realize kind of right away. But I've seen it where I actually caught two newts courting, a male and a female, just for two more males to come up and try to disrupt that. Ended up grabbing the other male, right? So they're pretty opportunistic when it comes to this sort of thing, especially food. Food is always a motivator, I think, for a lot of animals, right? Fish included. But and these guys, they know where their food comes from. They're not as, I don't know, I want to call them dumb. They're not bright. I will tell you that, but like they are intelligent enough to know that their food comes from me. So they'll come up to me, right? Like just like this. So he knows I'm right here. And then this one's probably going to start looking along, over here. They know exactly where their food comes from.
What?
A paddle-tail newt climb out of its aquarium, survive. Yeah. As long as you got moisture, that's pretty much, really one of the biggest things that these animals need. They need moisture. If you, and this is actually what I was going to go into, like I said, this is the migration season now, but after, any newts and salamanders have hatched after the migration season, that's actually like the toughest time, because those vernal pools, those are the pools that they breed in. They go by a lot of different names: vernal pools, seasonal pools, a few other things like seasonal puddle. But they're temporary bodies of water where there's no fish. That's why they use them, because they're safe. There's obviously other animals that could take advantage, but it's a safe breeding ground because there's no fish. You can't have permanent predators because those pools dry up during the summer. This past summer in particular was pretty rough. It was very hot, and there were a few breeding sites that I was trying to document, and I think only out of the 3 that I was looking at one place in particular, it was actually really funny. Only the smallest pool ended up lasting, and the other pools, they dried up along with every other thing in it. So all those salamanders that hatched, they died. They can't survive without the water. Even a terrestrial species needs some sort of moisture. So, that's really kind of driving home this difference between lizards, newts, salamanders, is really moisture is such a big thing. And, they absorb this, moisture through their skin. So they're not drinking. That's another key detail, because like a lizard would need to drink, right? But these guys, they have very, what's a good word? Like a glandular skin. They've got a lot of secretions going on. So amphibian skin is also very glandular. These guys are toxic.
One of the reasons why you don't want to handle them as well, right?
That too. Yeah, absolutely.
Because I've been watching a lot of reptile stuff, learning about, like care of, like, if you're going to bring one of them into your house, you got to learn all that stuff. And it was like one of the things I was like, ooh, frogs, like they're all stuff that you are told, like, set it and forget it. Like, make sure you take care of the tank, but don't hold them or carry them, and if you're going to, gloves and lotion.
Well, I'll say honestly, like, it's not that bad. Like you could definitely handle them. I wouldn't handle them a lot, because really, the toxins are one thing, and that's like, let's say you have an open cut or something. Maybe in that scenario, you might want to be more careful, wear gloves or something, right? Like I could pick these guys up, no problem, and it's perfectly fine, right? So you're not going to have any adverse reactions just for picking one up. But you do have to be careful if you got open cuts, or especially if they are secreting, poison. So like a toad, you would see like that white substance in a defensive or threatened posture, right? Those are more obvious, but like maybe you don't want to rub your eyes or something; they might burn, things like that. So you really want to wash your hands, but picking them up alone really is perfectly fine.
Oh,
However, to that point though, maybe safe for you overall, but not for them, because on the note that their skin is very sensitive and glandular because it absorbs a lot, you do want to wash your hands before handling them, because they're going to absorb all the chemicals that are on your hands before, if you don't wash your hands, right? Like they'll absorb all that. So that could be dangerous for them. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. No.
No, I was gonna say basically, like, I'll go out and do this the documentation stuff, the migration and all that, and I can't even really use hand sanitizer before that, or lotions. You can't do any of that, because that's gonna really affect those animals that are gonna go breed, and potentially you could put some of that stuff into the water. So you really want to be careful. They're very, very sensitive to a lot of things that you might not think twice about.
Well, it's interesting you said the hand sanitizer. I mean, that's like the exact opposite. I would have thought like hand sanitizer would have been the thing to do.
After, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Yeah.
or even before. For me, I would have thought that like, what the heck is going on here?
Oh, blue spotted salamanders. See, that's cool. That's a really interesting thing for me, because I have blue spotted salamanders in my state too, but they're highly endangered. And I was very fortunate enough to be given a location where they supposedly are. I haven't seen them in person yet, but from what I understand, they seem to be, or that location anyway, seems to be the only place in my state where there's genetically pure blue spotted salamanders. It's isolated from another species that I'm actually going to be going to see later up north. And in that area, blue spotted salamanders actually hybridize with Jefferson salamanders, and that's what I'm hoping to find a little bit later this year. But because they hybridize, they're not pure, genetically blue spotted salamanders. So because they're all hybrids, that has caused a lot of, I guess, like scientific debate and stuff like that. So if you find one where they're known to hybridize, it may look like a blue spotted, but there's a good chance it's not truly a blue spotted salamander, just because of the hybridization. So hopefully where I'm going to go look where supposedly this last isolated population is. We'll see if I find one. That's going to be like a whole video when I do that. So.
Oh, sweet. So he took a guess. He took a guess
Yes.
over here. Yeah.
And he's right. Yes. Yes.
I was like, all right, well,
Yep.
okay. So we had a couple people bring this up, and I think that we would do ourselves a disservice on not touching on this subject, because I didn't even think about working this into it. Was all right. So if someone's gonna want to keep these as a pet, because I saw a few people was like, oh, I'm gonna need to add these to the fish room. What to you? What is? I mean, you don't have to show us, but explain it.
Yeah.
What looks like a good setup for I suppose an Eastern newt or rib newt or whatever you Eastern rib, right? Same thing.
No, actually, so rib newts, those are Spanish rib newts from Spain, and totally different species. And actually, that's a beginner species too.
That's probably why I had them mixed up then, because
yeah.
Yeah.
But see, the thing is, the Eastern newt is not really a beginner species, because I won't like get too into the weeds with this one, but because I want to get to the question. The Eastern newt, like you showed the red eft before, but this species in particular has a very, very complex life history, and depending on that life stage, you have to have completely different housing requirements, right? Whereas the Spanish rib newt, you're pretty much good in an aquatic setup, and you should with any aquatic species, outside of like any species that have larval features, you should be fine with like a small little area for them to rest at the surface, like maybe a little land area. And I say land area loosely because like my setup, I just have like spider wood sticking up out of the water, and they'll just go up on that to rest. But outside of that, mostly they're aquatic, and Spanish red newts especially are very well known for not utilizing those land areas. So you should have it just in case, but there's a good chance they're not going to use it. So they're pretty easy. They're very hardy. So, you know, I would say first, if you want to get into this hobby, go for a beginner species. These guys definitely are not it, just because of how complex they are, and they are known for not being as hardy either. And as far as a setup, I used to have a 55-gallon tank. I think this is like the first video I did on my channel too. It was like the care guide that I did. And it was a big 55-gallon, and I used aquatic soil, you know, a ton of different aquatic plants and everything, like anacris, crystal wort, and a few other things. I love using Java moss with these guys. And Java moss, you know, temperature is key with these guys because you have to keep them cool. Warmer temperatures are pretty detrimental to them, so you have to get some plants, obviously, that can tolerate lower temperatures. But everything's all natural: spiderwood, aquatic plants, aquatic soil, and then a plant light of some sort. No filter. You don't really need one, but if you're going to do one, a sponge filter is pretty good. So I went for a very dense, you know, aquatic setup with just a ton of plants everywhere. And the more plants, the better, because they love feeling secure. They can hide and everything. So I'd say, you know, aquatic plants are your best friend with these guys for sure.
Perfect, man. Because around here, man, we're big fans of aquatic plants.
Yeah.
So
And you know,
kind of
they look nicer.
Oh,
what kind of aquatic plants in specific are we talking? Do they prefer anything over other stuff? Is there any that you shouldn't have with them, or?
So I would say just avoid anything that requires warmer temperatures. Just because your plants are going to die, because these guys got to be kept like 60s, like low 60s is really optimal for them. In fact, I have them in my garage right now. You know, it's not freezing in there, which is great, but like the best thing you could do for them is really replicate a natural seasonal change. So, you know, 40s is what they're kind of dealing with, maybe low 50s, depending on how cold it is outside. You know, I've kept them even into like the high 30s. So, and they're still active and eating. Not all species are kind of like that. Their metabolism will drop enough where they're not going to eat as much. But, you know, as long as you stick with some really cold water plants, you're going to be good. Now, obviously with aquatic plants, you're not going to drop that into like the 30s and 40s and stuff. But just on their optimal temperature range, Java moss is really, really good. In fact, in my current setup, that's actually all I have is just Java moss, and that thing has already grown out throughout the entire tank, right? So that's enough to keep up with and trim back as I need to. But I tend to let it grow out because they love it, right? They could hide it and everything. So Java moss is definitely really, really, I'd say Java moss is probably number one. If, you know, anything else, Java moss is number one. Yeah. And anacris is good too. But crystal wart I was pretty successful with. I'm trying to think of some other things, but I'd say at least those three I was pretty successful with the species.
So I came across a lot of newts in the idea of that they were like a good paludarium animal. Now, are there certain species that are, or is it more of like, because the way you're saying it is like they almost seem like like one of the more aquatic crabs, where you just like almost have just like a little spot, and they're just mainly just all in the water, right? So
yeah, I mean these guys, like, you know, they can hold their breath for a long time. So
is that like a misrepresentation of them online, or maybe I just I
don't know if I'd say maybe misrepresentation. I don't know if I go that far. But yeah, they're not going to really utilize the land portion too much. I mean, mine do. These guys definitely do a little bit. But like, if you have, I would say like the perfect setup for these. So let's say if you got a 40-gallon like I have right now, you could fill that up like halfway, maybe, a little more than that. Because even their environments, like they live in shallow water, they'll stick to the shallows, but it could get, maybe almost knee high, right? So if you take that into account, they have to go up for air, of course, at some point. You don't want to overdo it, but I don't know, fill up the tank like halfway and just stick some spider wood in there, and they're going to be fine. And they'll probably not use that spider wood for most of their time in that setup, right? So they're good underwater for quite a while. Yeah.
So what are they munching on?
Frozen bloodworms. So that's like a pretty easy one to get. I don't know if you know what those sinking salmon pellets are, but they use those for axolotls a lot, and those are fine to use if you have them as an appropriate size. Those are good. They're pretty nutritious too, so I would go with those. But because I don't have access to that all the time, I have to order it usually. I stick with frozen bloodworms a lot. I use frozen brine shrimp, but specifically the spirulina frozen brine shrimp because it's got added nutrients to it. Even then, I try to keep that to a minimum because it has salt content, and salt and amphibians totally opposite. Like salt is not their best friend.
I would imagine.
Yeah, but it can be used in moderation. Yeah. Live blackworms are also really good.
I was gonna say, what about some live foods like blackworms
shrimp?
or
Well,
you do
if you could get
like
them,
earthworms and stuff?
yes, that's your number one right there. If you could get them, yep.
Okay.
Could you do like shrimp if you have like some cold natural wild shrimp, like wild coloration shrimp? If you're you're breeding for coloration, you got some extras, and you don't necessarily like. Yeah, are those would be a decent acceptable?
Yeah, that's like a extra snack for them. And actually, I would recommend. So, like, I mean, we could kind of get into like community, the idea of community enclosures, I guess. Because
yes,
with what you're saying, shrimp are actually very beneficial as an added tank mate because they're going to help maintain the cleanliness of your enclosure, but they're also going to be a very safe tank mate for your newt or salamander because believe it or not, there's not a whole lot you can add as a safe partner to them. Newts and salamanders are predators. Whatever they can fit in their mouths, they're going to go after it. And they do. So even a piece of gravel, if you ever use gravel for your substrate, it's got to be tiny because it has to be small enough for them to pass it through. Otherwise, you can get impaction, right? It'll get stuck. They can't pass it through. And then you end up with a dead salamander. So gravel's an issue, but food, because of that reason, can be an issue too. So let's say if you have snails, right? You want to make sure those snails are either very small or, too big for them to eat, right? Paddletail newt chomped the head of a huge catfish. Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Fish also are pretty fatty and not usually good for newts anyway to begin with. That's if a newt can catch it, because newts are also pretty slow. So on the note of them being slow, shrimp actually are usually quick to escape. So like cherry shrimp, warmer waters, obviously, but 70, I'd say like 70 degrees is fine. And cherry shrimp are obviously okay at that temperature. So you wouldn't have to really worry about losing too many cherry shrimp. I'm sure they'll get a few, but that's a pretty good partner to have with them, or ghost shrimp for that matter. So I would go with those sort of things. But outside of that, if you want to add another real tank mate, you're pretty much just adding more of the same species. A lot of newts have very similar requirements. Their requirements pretty much overlap, but because, like an Eastern newt or a Kaiser newt, let's say, they have completely different toxins. One of those could be harmful to the other. So, you don't want to do that, right? You wouldn't want to house those two species, even though their temperature range and food requirements are the same, right? So there's a lot to consider with tank mates for them. They're not really social or community based as a lot of people might hope for. And I think that tends to drive a lot of people away. I actually had a comment on my channel one time that someone said they prefer, ecosystems and not monocultures. And I totally get that, because who doesn't like, this sprawling enclosure of all these different species, all these different fish and shrimp and everything. I mean, they're beautiful, but, and I'm sure, this is a no-brainer. You want your animal to stay alive, and the number one thing you have to do is prioritize their health, right? So you wouldn't want to jeopardize that. And so that does mean maybe a little more of a boring setup, lack of, I guess, more exciting tank mates. But like, I've got 8 of these guys in the same tank. I've got, snails and shrimp. And honestly, like the enclosure, I think if you make a really beautiful enclosure and the animal you house in it is just as amazing, you can't go wrong, even if you got more of the same in there,
So it's really.
So what if?
Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say. So what if you did like I guess, would there be any tank mates you could have, like if you did a real elaborate setup, like with the water feature, and then kind of made it, the top half a more, like, can you house things up top,
like a half land, half water sort of thing?
Yeah, that like don't go in the water. You could
you can
like that.
You can, but it still depends on what you're trying to put in there, right? Because like, let's say the red eft, I keep going back to that because I think it's just one of the best examples you could use. It's, the most popular species in that stage of life, but the red eft is completely terrestrial. So sorry if you can hear all that. My dogs are acting up, but
You're good, man. No worries. No worries.
But the red F stage, it's a completely terrestrial stage of life compared to the adult that's completely aquatic. So with the red F, you wouldn't be able to do a half land, half water because they can actually drown, which is weird because newts start off as aquatic larval animals. They start off in the water. But when they lose those gills, they become hydrophobic at their F stage, which is, they go from land to water, water to land, then back to water as an adult. So it's very complex. Same thing like a tadpole, right? If you had a toad, and this is actually kind of the difference between a toad and a frog in a way, if you kind of just look at the way that they behave in nature, that kind of gives you the clues that you need to keep them, right? Like a toad, you're not going to really see swimming around outside of them going into a breeding pool, right? Whereas obviously like a green frog or something, yeah, that's a pond frog. It's perfectly happily at home in the water, whereas a toad is more happy on land, right? So you want to try to keep all those details in the back of your mind when you do your enclosures, because you don't want to risk something that looks nice but could be detrimental. I think one of the biggest examples is actually this. Tiger salamanders. I don't have any of my own, but I know plenty about them. They're a mole salamander, so that means they hide underground. That their scientific name, ambystoma, is indicative of them being a mole salamander. That's the reputation of just staying underground the whole time, really outside of their breeding season. So when you try to go look for them in the wild, it's going to be pretty tough. And actually around here, believe it or not, they breed in like, let's say late December and January. So I missed that window already. But, outside of that, they're pretty much away from sight. And so the point of all that is to say, if they hide underground the whole time, that's pretty much the way you have to keep them, right? But you'll see plenty of videos where you see them like swimming around and everything. But that's like a forced behavior in captivity, because that's not the way that they're living in the wild, right? They're going to be swimming around when they go to breed in their vernal pools, but outside of that, after they're done breeding, they're going back underground. So, these guys are a little tricky sometimes, and I think we tend to think of those elaborate setups, but sometimes, keeping it simple is the best thing you could do for them. You can get elaborate though, if you know what you're doing, if you got the money to put into it. Yeah, an outdoor tub, and some people get really elaborate with outdoor ponds and stuff like that. Now, I haven't tried the outdoor stuff. I know a lot of people are successful with it, and you got to worry about predatory birds and stuff. I'm sure things will try to pick at whatever you got outside. I've had a koi pond, and that didn't last because of the aquatic birds that we have around here. So I wouldn't risk my newts just because of that. But where you can, people have been successful with outdoor setups. So it's not that you can't get elaborate, but it's more so that whatever you do just has to meet the requirements of the animal.
Well, so I originally I'd heard about newts like coming into the aquarium hobby from Shelby from the Garden of Eden, who is they're like a huge shrimp keeper. So I think it's funny you saying that that's like the one thing that they can be combined. And I was like, they're a business. So I was like, now I'm thinking business wise. I was like, I wonder if that was part of their plan. Like, cause like you want to be able to sell stuff that goes together. And so I'm like, I wonder if they saw that as an opportunity for combined sales or something like that. I don't know. But I think that they also just have similar interests as far as just like expanding horizons, and that's just like one of the, I don't know, I've seen a few people just asking about them, and yeah, so this very cool. So combined pairing for shrimp.
And I would even just kind of note that I still wouldn't do it, but I know like there's very few fish species that you could keep with newts. I think cloud minnows people have tried, and I think one other, and those are, the safe fish to use. The only risk I would still say is if your newt catches one of them, on the off chance, because newts are really slow, but it's possible. You definitely don't want your newt, getting any parasites, things like that, or just eating things that could become unhealthy for it. But I think even that's on the low end of the concern. Really, one concern, and this maybe is one of the things that makes newts and salamanders a little tricky sometimes, is while technically something like that may be safe, they could be stressed out and you wouldn't really know it, right? And I say that because when you introduce a newt to its new enclosure, they have a habit of not eating right away. They got to take maybe like a good week to settle in. And that's pretty stressful to think like, oh shoot, my animal's not eating. What am I going to do? What do I do to make it eat? And even aquatic species, which I've had no issue with mine, but they have a reputation for not eating. So if you see the introduction of another animal, like, a ton of fish is going to start stressing them out, that's probably good reason to not pair them with fish, even if the fish themselves are safe. If you intend to keep your newt healthy, And to answer that question, I believe the current status is imports from other countries are banned, but I'm pretty sure you could still, sell across state lines. So,
did you want to? I can't remember if we talked. We didn't really touch directly on the conservation aspect of it, did we?
Yeah, we can talk about that.
Yeah. So why don't you talk about some of that? Like, you can tell us about exactly what you're doing tonight. Yep. I know you kind of hinted at it a little bit in the beginning, but why don't we get a little bit of that story?
Yeah. So, I mentioned amphibian migration before, and pretty much, what I do now. So like, I have my Eastern newts, love these guys, always will love these guys. And I've got my enclosure, and, of course, like the hobby is still very much a big part of what I do. This is the only species that, I think really intrigues me the most. And I think it's just a bias from when I was little, when I found them, right? But outside of that, I've decided to become a little more serious with just these animals in particular, because I've always wanted to do something a little more than just keep them. I want to actually contribute to something. And what I started to do years ago, I would just take photos, and I'm like, okay, they're nice photos, but they're just sitting around. Like, I have photos on my phone, but if the only thing that they're doing is just me getting some temporary enjoyment out of them, it's great, but there's really not much purpose. So I really decided to start documenting every species in the state, actually, because then I'm like, well, I could take photos of them, but now I could actually document these species. And then I'm like, well, now that I'm doing that, let me put a field guide together. And so it turns out the most recent field guide that we have, like as far as the state goes, is like way outdated, right? So I have one that I'm putting together by going out there, boots on the ground and everything during their migration times, when these animals are hatching from their eggs and stuff. In fact, I was just out there like 2 weeks ago, in the cold, right? Like, you could still find salamanders in high 30s, maybe low 30s even. As long as that water is not frozen, there's a good chance, if it's the species that is supported by that habitat, you could probably find something. So in my area, I've got 2-line salamanders everywhere. The stream wasn't frozen. It was pretty cold, but they're active, So I found some of those recently. And I'm just compiling all that data, all those photos. And I really want to make it a point of taking the photos myself, specifically to get more recent data, more recent documentation. And I think that's especially important for species that are rare, because we've got other species like I said, the blue spotted salamander. There's one spot in New Jersey where that population is isolated, pure genetic blue spotted salamanders. I haven't found them yet, but that's going to be a pretty big deal to get that documented. Which I know other people already have, but as far as like an official field guide for the state, that's going to be pretty big, right? Because the consensus is that they're hybrids and they're not really true blue spotted anymore. So to kind of differentiate that is going to be pretty important. Species like the mud salamander, that's a really interesting one that I don't even know if I'm going to be able to find, to be honest. I think the way it goes is that the last one, and I don't know if any of you know what iNaturalist is, but it's a great app. I highly recommend, if you love going out there taking photos of animals, nature and stuff, use it. You can upload your photos, and it's like a community-based thing where you get to essentially verify each other's findings, right? And it's also contributing to conservation efforts by detailing what's in the area, what's at risk, and things like that. And on that app, there's only been one documented sighting of the mud salamander, I think back in 2021. And before that, I think you could count on one hand how many have been actually documented in New Jersey. So they are incredibly, incredibly rare. So knowing that someone did it means that there's a chance I could find it. It's going to be tough, right? So a lot of traveling involved, especially. That's like 2 hours away from me, even. So New Jersey, as small as it is, it's big enough, right? But that's really the goal, is to document all those species, the common ones, the endangered ones, to get something up to date to hopefully help impact conservation efforts too. And actually, I've worked with a few biologists to do some of this stuff. More recently, last year, I volunteered to go up to a migration site, and a lot of migration sites, not just New Jersey, busy roads intersect the migratory routes of the frogs and the salamanders. So because of that, cars come through when these animals are crossing at night. Obviously, a lot of people aren't, looking on the road for a tiny little salamander crossing, so they get run over. But those conservation efforts try to prevent that. And so what we've done is gather all this data on how many we find at the time of night that we find them, under the conditions that we find them, if they're going to breed or coming back from breeding. And the end result of that is to document how busy that area is, to justify basically putting a tunnel underneath the road so that the species don't have to actually cross on the road itself. They just get funneled underneath to be able to migrate safely, right?
Very
So that's what some of those efforts are doing. And the one up north, this actually might be the last year that I can go and do that, because I think they're trying to put the tunnels in this year. So there's a spot closer to home, though, where I think that they are just starting those efforts. I actually volunteered to do that last year too.
So hold on, I gotta ask
Yeah.
you. Well,
Mhm.
so are people doing like at home conservation of certain strains or collection points as far as like breeding projects, and is that have you mentioned that, or did I hope I didn't miss that? I don't think I did.
No, that's actually a good question. None that I know of, to be honest. Now, I do know that there's a breeding project, though, for tiger salamanders, because they are endangered here. I think there's only a handful of breeding spots left in southern New Jersey. And I know they do actually actively participate in this project and release them. It's made an impact. But outside of that, like what I want to eventually do, and this is probably years if I'm even able to. I mean, the permits and scientific, backing that you would need to actually be able to do that stuff. I'm not an expert, right? I definitely don't claim to be, but I would love to participate in, some of those breeding projects one day. I would love to be hands-on like that. And I know there's species that are maybe not endangered, but locally are in trouble. So part of what drives me is like when I have seen some of the changes growing up, right? I've got a few locations by my house, and this is a really good example. I recently worked with a biologist last year, separate from the migration stuff, but he knew that biologist, right? They've worked together. So I showed them a breeding site that they didn't even know about, and we just kind of, hit it off from there and stayed in contact. And he started having me document some species and I guess some areas where the state doesn't have enough data. And there's one place in particular where it's state property, and you really can't just go there. No one can really go there unless it's official state business and stuff like that. Like whatever, no trespassing signs and stuff. You name it. That's the sort of stuff you'd encounter going there. So it's state property, but the fact that no one goes there, it's untouched. And there's one species, the northern red salamander. I could go to this place, and I showed him. I showed him all the photos and everything. I said, "Look, I mean, this place is incredible. It's untouched. It's pristine. The stream that these salamanders live in, I could find, like, I think the last time I was there, I found like 5 larval northern red salamanders in less than an hour, and that's saying something, because there's a spot by my house where I grew up that they used to be there, and I'm lucky if I even find one in a day. So in less than an hour, I found 5 at this place that's untouched, and then the place that I grew up at, I can't even find them anymore. So I'm actually trying to prove that they're still there in some sort of effort to maybe get local, biologists involved, because I don't think a species needs to be endangered to need some sort of effort to maintain its population. So that's one project that I'm trying to work on, and very loosely. I really just started that between last year up till now. So I have a long way to go, and I don't even know really how I'm going to drive that home, but I'm trying to stay in contact with these biologists and show them, like, hey, this is what it's like here, but this population needs help. Like, we should do something. And it's like that, I think, in a lot of places because of development. That's really the number one factor when it comes to declining populations, is development and pollution. Climate change, yeah, but it's not immediate, right? The immediate thing that we can change, it's as simple as those signs that you see when you go to a park, carry out what you carry in, because it's true. Something very easy to do like that, just don't pollute. This place that I grew up at, I mean, there's batteries in the stream and stuff, a lot of junk that just really shouldn't be there. And that species is just, I don't even know if they're really there anymore. So, and that's what it's come down to. you know.
So
Yeah.
like it blows my mind that no one's that well, I mean, maybe there's more projects out there, but it's that there's not more like conservation breeding projects for at-home people. I mean, like,
Yeah.
if you've heard of the story of like the tequila split fin, and then our buddy Ed in the chat, he was in the chat earlier, probably has multiple stories of this, but you know, it's like hobbyists breeding these fish actually were able to take their populations and reintroduce them to their home location and rebuild that population. And so if you're talking about, there's these like the blue spotted
yeah, well, the blue spotted being one of them, the northern red.
Yeah.
But I mean, to your point, that's absolutely true. I mean, I don't think hobbyists get enough credit, especially when it comes to the amphibian stuff, because you know, back to that question that was asked earlier on, you know, interstate transportation and stuff. The reason why it's like that is because of things like chytrid and then B-sal, which is the salamander version of chytrid. Those are two different types of amphibian-specific fungus, right? And it turns out that, unfortunately, a lot of these animals, specifically, are wild caught, right? So I've made this a point to like say this in my videos, you know, quite a few times. Like, this is such a niche hobby that most people in this hobby are not breeding them in captivity, and most of what you find for sale is wild caught. So, you know, you factor in, it's very easy to deplete a population if you just catch everything. And they're also, you know, super sensitive to the changes in their environment around them, right? These animals, and, you know, I think another thing that's really not immediately obvious, like these guys right here, I've had them going on 7 years, right? So they're not 7 years old, though. In fact, I don't have their exact age, but let's, you know, look at this for a moment. If it takes an Eastern newt from larva to adult, right? It'll take that larva through its F stage, maybe about 4 to 6 years in the wild to mature. You can cut that down in captivity, I think, to like 3 years with a lot of food, but mine were wild caught. So that I know. And factoring that in, you know, let's just say 4 years. Okay. I've had them for 7. That puts them at what, you know, 12. So, they, you know, they live a long time. They live a really, really long time.
I would not have guessed that long. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, that's kind of mind blowing. I'm not gonna lie. I would have bet.
So
if you guessed me or would have asked me
Yeah.
an estimate, it would have been like 5 to 7 years. Is like shooting from the hip kind of thing. But
so I'd say like maybe this species is probably easily, you know, over 20 years. You know, maybe even 30. You know, I'm going to go with 30. I don't know that for a fact, but a lot of species, you know, not just these guys, a lot of species in captivity, because of course you take away the natural predation and, you know, things like that, all the dangers from the wild, their lifespan is, you know, significantly increased, right? So healthy foods, things like that. I'm sure these guys will live past, you know, 20. If they're not there already, I don't know, right? But factoring how long I've had them and how long it takes to mature, they're, you know, they've got a lot of life in them, and, you know, left, obviously. So they can live a long time. But to that point, because it takes so long for them to mature to begin with, you know, this isn't an animal that you're going to just pick up, you know, as a baby, expect, you know, quick maturity in like 2 years or something, and then just breed it, right? It's not what's happening. And then to breed it, they're not the easiest to breed. Let's say you get the male going, right? Like the seasonal changes, like I said, I put them through a winter cooling period. One, it's just healthy to do that for them anyway. But, you know, the male may be ready, maybe the female isn't. I don't know, right? And I've seen my newts court plenty of times. Doesn't mean I get eggs from them. So courting is also not a definitive sign that you're going to get anything. And I'm not even trying to actively breed them to begin with anyway. But, you know, I've got a mix of males and females in there, and I've seen them court so many times, but it doesn't mean anything. So, you know, all that means is Yeah.
Christian is he's challenging all of our fish breeding friends out there. Sounds like we need some eyes and brains on this problem here, and we got some pretty smart people out there, man. I think we can start making that happen.
Yeah,
Figuring out
and
some of those puzzles, because that sounds fun.
I do think that with enough effort, captive breeding goes a long way, and I think the hobby needs to get more credit for that sort of thing because there's a lot of smart people out there. In fact, like these biologists and stuff rely on people outside of their credentials to help them with things too. So you don't have to be credentialed to have some in-depth knowledge about this stuff, right? I've been doing this for a very long time, so that's why I know as much as I do. It's something I've been passionate about.
You're a certified herpetologist, right?
Yes. Yep.
So what did you take, like a course, or is that what exactly is that?
Yeah. So it's definitely not the equivalent to being a biologist, but I did take a course. It was the Amphibian Foundation of Georgia, so it's a very well-known amphibian sanctuary and conservation, basically, right? And they were even recognized. I saw a post on Instagram by Nat Geo. So they're recognized. It's not a small-time thing, and they do a pretty in-depth herpetology course, and it's to get your knowledge on a lot of different aspects of reptiles and amphibians. We're talking phylogenies, so evolutionary trees and stuff. The relationship on those evolutionary trees to each other, but even conservation itself. A lot of different aspects. So yeah, you had to pass all of that to become certified and recognized as a herpetologist. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
So what I would also add to that, actually, with that, certification, I haven't checked in a while, but a lot of people that pass that certification course, they even offer real jobs to some of those people too. So they do job postings for the people that have passed, which is pretty cool. I haven't found anything to actually qualify for, but it's definitely not nothing, but it's not, the equivalent to a PhD, obviously.
Yeah, well, I think the whole of the world is starting to open up more to the idea of like we were talking about, boots on the ground experience and people getting their hands on, and it's never gonna go away, the idea of, obviously we want people to go to college and get all of that experience and those degrees and stuff, but I think the whole world is definitely opening their mind more to, just because you don't have a degree doesn't mean you're not you know what I mean?
100%. 100%. So I can actually give you a perfect example on that. So I mentioned to you earlier, actually, before the stream started, I led a small little group tour at a conservation site near me. And this was a retired, ocean biologist, which was really, really cool. And we met because of a guy that we know mutually, and specifically wanted my knowledge on the salamander species in that area. And so I showed them around the conservation site. There were breeding locations that our mutual friend didn't even know about. And, the biologist turns to me and says, "Hey, look, are you a biologist yourself?" I'm like, "No." "Oh, okay. You a PhD?" "No." He's like, "Wow, you're pretty good at this. You're not a teacher or anything?" "No." And he's like, he even said specifically, he's like, us PhDs, I think some of us can become kind of arrogant thinking we know everything, but that's just not the case, And, the thing is, I think in a lot of cases, that PhD really surmises the thing that you really specialize in, but it doesn't mean that you know everything. And then that's okay, because there's a lot to learn out there. And, especially with stuff like this, that was the knowledge that they were seeking for me. And I sure as heck did not go to school for this. But I have absolutely maintained a passion for it since I was little. And it's just something that I love, and I've wanted to get involved, especially now to this point, more seriously, to hopefully make some sort of, positive impact on it. So.
Well, hot damn, man. I don't know if we did this on purpose or what, but we just came to an hour, which unfortunately, guys, normally we do 2 hours. Tonight we're just doing about an hour. We do have a giveaway to do here, but that's just the way that just wrapped itself up. You tied it right up into right to the beginning, and I just think that was a perfect way to like just kind of circle that whole story. Yep. And I want to show this off because I think that this is really, really indicative of what we were just talking about. This is what I put these stickers together, right? They're called Fisher and Punks. Now, this is the first one that I started, and his name's Armchair Biologist Ben. All right. Now, you already get it, right? You know, an armchair quarterback. But that's what we are, man. We're people that are learning about nature, experiencing and growing, and we're armchair biologists. So these are stickers called Fisher and Punks. They're based off of like Garbage Pail Kids, if you've seen those. So it's just a bunch of different kind of fish keeper personalities. You know, people that are obsessed with pufferfish. We got paludariums. This is the new series. We got moss. People that Mossy Mike, Worm Wrangler Willie. We got like all these different personalities or whatever. And I just arranged a giveaway while you were going there. If everybody wants a pack of the mystery pack there, you guys can have a chance to win that. Just comment conservation, no hashtag, because I forgot to enter the hashtag when I set up the giveaway. So it's just straight up conservation. I think it can even be in a sentence. You could just be like, I love conservation. Conservation's amazing. We should all be into conservation. And I like using this one quote because it's one that our friend from channel sponsor, Ed's Aquatic Exotics, he's really into conservation, and he told us a quote that he had heard, which is just one tank. You know, if you have a bunch of fish tanks, you know, set aside one tank for an endangered species or species that's a little bit more you know, not as appreciated as much.
Yeah.
One that you can kind of, you know, save, and maybe one day you're the guy that's got it, or the gal that's got it. Yeah, just something to think about. Just one tank. That's all it takes. Conservation. So, and then who knows, man? Maybe we're gonna start a wave of conservation for newts and salamanders. I think that that's something that we should really consideration, conversation. It's conservation, guys. But
that would be cool, right?
Yeah, I think that there is a small wave starting, man. I'm telling you, it's not just me. It's something that I sniffed out. It's this combination of like, I know terrariums have been a thing, but I just feel like this combination of like the fish hobby can be supported so well by like amphibians and reptiles and all of these shows kind of coming together and that idea. And I just feel like, I don't know, I feel like I can smell it in the air, feel it in the air that that's going to be a wave of some sort coming up here, guys. I don't know. Maybe you heard it. You didn't hear it here first, because I heard it from the Garden of Eater. They were the first ones to mention these things. And I was like, what's that? Like newts? I can keep them in an aquarium? Like I used to have lizards as a kid, so I was super into that. And I was just like, oh my God, all right. And so, hey, maybe we'll make it happen, man.
Hey, you never know. You never know, you know. And I would say, like, you know, fish or salamanders, I mean, look, we want to keep the animals that we're passionate about alive and well, very, very, I think, readily available in our hobby. And one way to do that is to, you know, captive breed. And, you know, the conservation efforts also help to go a long way with doing that. So.
All right. No, this is a new name that I do not recognize. Nick at Hardwater Propagation. What is up? Yes, I'm breeding Limia and Goodies for this reason. Goodies. Goodies. See, that is, I just showed my Ron Burgundy there. I will read whatever pops up on that screen. I swear to God, we are all.
I knew you were going to read it that way too. I was like, here goes Kyle.
But, yeah, dude, and this is something we really push. I like to push on the channel, mainly because live bears. are a big thing in the Chicagoland area, as well as cichlids. But I don't know. I just think that it's like an under appreciated part of the hobby, and it makes you feel so cool. You got something that's like a little more rare, not everyone has, and you can kind of, I don't know, you puff out your chest a little bit, like, hey, I'm doing something good. I don't know. For me, it feels pretty neat to have a species that, not that I necessarily did anything to save, but it's one that was saved and reintroduced because of hobbyists. So I feel like I have a legacy fish. It's pretty neat. And all right, let's give this one more refresh, guys, and then we will get this wheel rolling. And then, do you need to get rolling, my friend, or are you okay to hang out for a little bit?
I am actually going to head out. So, but definitely, thanks again for having me on for sure. I'm definitely down to do this again sometime. And I'm sure I'll have plenty more stories to tell you. So.
You are more than welcome back on. And just to let everyone know, I don't know if we said this. This was his first ever live. Can you guys believe that?
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
He told me we were talking before, and I was like, I didn't know how it was gonna go. I didn't know that this was gonna be his first ever. I thought it was just a first on a different channel. A natural. So I hope we see him around in the community, man, because you have a way with words for sure. Sorry, I keep talking about Brandon over there, man. Sorry, what were you saying, man?
What?
I thought I was talking over you there.
No,
man.
you're good.
For sure.
No, but thanks for coming on, Christian. It was nice meeting you. I appreciate
all
the
likewise.
information. I really look forward to having you on again in the future. Maybe kind of show off some of the stuff you got. And yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, sounds good. All right. Yeah. Take care, guys.
Stay warm. Stay safe out there. Okay.
Yep. Appreciate it. See you.
Catch you later. All right, guys. Let's finish up this giveaway here, and then me and Brandon are gonna take off because we got stuff to do. And then yeah. So let's. Oh Jesus Christ! I gotta get over this. Okay. Did anyone else enter? I'll refresh this one more time because I know some of that delay can catch up people. All right. Perfect. We got 14. We'll do the Wheel of Death, and last person standing gets the win. Are we good to go, guys? Let's go. And this is for a mystery pack of stickers. Move and close. Mystery pack, and then if no.
Redneck Aquatics, Stan.
And then if you're the winner, you will just need to email outside in a oh my god, I just freaking refreshed it. God. Damn it. Whatever. Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's dumb. Whatever. Loud.
Now, Kyle.
What's up?
Can you just click like the center icon and have it spin?
And not have to do the
and not have to click the button to spin? So you know what I'm
that's
saying?
probably the way to do it. Just do that. Yeah. And then I don't go anywhere near there and have that problem.
Yep.
Yeah, that definitely works out better. All right. Sorry, Aquatic Moose. You got moose off the wheel. Shady Grady. I'm trying to think of like funny funny sayings to say. I'm not that smart. I'm not that fast. Shady's in the shade of despair. Just one more fish. Needed just one more chance to stay on the wheel. Didn't get it though.
Shady Grady's gone, baby.
Yeah, Shady Grady gone, baby. J and N. You won. J and K. No, sorry. That was lame. I could have done something better. Nick at Hard Water. You had some hard luck on this wheel here. I'm gonna make it all the way through. I'm gonna think of something for everybody. Redneck Aquatics.
Stan, you lost again.
Yeah, Stan, you lost again. I love it. Uncle Smiley's Aquariums ain't smiling no more because he lost.
Again. So that worked out good. Everybody that was off before you refreshed is now off again.
Oh, for sure. That makes sense. Yeah. So that then we didn't change the statistics, I guess. SC Catahoula's shit. I don't know. It's a catastrophe that you lost.
Con, fuck
That was a stretch.
All right, my cussing.
Night Owl Aquatics. That's a good night on the wheel. A bad night on the wheel? Shit. I'm almost there. I can do it. We got 3 left, guys. 3 left. Who's it gonna be? Big Steve. Oh, we got Sleeper Barbecue and CR Fish. Let's go. Oh, that one threw me off. I was like, CR Fish. Hey, congratulations.
Congrats,
This is the part I always forget to do. Record winner and close. Cheryl Smith. All right. So, we'll move that. All right. Congratulations, Cheryl Smith. Shoot me an email for at outsideinaquatics@gmail.com. And I'll just need your address. Actually, you might have, if you placed an order, I might be able to find, I think you have placed an order at one point on the site. But anyways, just send me an email. It'd be easier, more straightforward. Just send it to outsideinaquatics@gmail.com and just send me your address, and I'll get you a mystery pack of stickers, and maybe I'll throw something else special in there. We'll see what I have laying around here. Stickers and different stuff. All right.
So everybody's telling you to not quit your day job, Kyle.
Everyone's telling me to not quit my day job. What? Hold on. You're really quiet. Did I turn you down or something?
I don't know.
No, it's automatic, but for some reason. Talk again?
Yo.
Oh, no. It's, you know what? I probably just made them all that probably made them, it was probably really loud on their end. Automatically adjust. All right. So I forgot. I turned my computer volume down. That's why I couldn't hear you. Because of the
SC and Shady Grady in particular are telling you to not quit your day job, and that was awful.
Wow, that was shit. Don't quit your day job. Oh my god, you guys are so mean. I look forward to this all week long for the good feelings, and you guys just beat me down. Oh my god, I love it. Yeah, all right. So I'm gonna adjust. I gotta switch the names up for the titles because I've had too many people reach out to me and be like, all right, so am I missing an addition for the stickers because the YouTube creator series was the series 3, but then there's a series 4. Is that what it is, or am I mixing the numbers up? But I gotta change the way I labeled it. Yeah, so series 4 is the one that I just dropped. Creator series is the series 3. So I gotta change that name because that has confused too many people. And I'm gonna label that right now. I'm actually adjusting the site on the fly right now.
I was gonna say you could just change the 4th series to series 3 and keep the creator series.
Well, what I did was I just put a parentheses series 3 like next to the label on the site. So if you're just scrolling through it, I think it'll get the point across. But no, that's that actually is yeah, that might have been the way to do it. Dude, I knew it was gonna be a problem when I was making the name. And I was like, should I do it this way or that way? And it literally I went to the idea of Grand Theft Auto. And I was like, Grand Theft Auto went from like it was like GTA 1, GTA 2, and then they went to Liberty City. Or no, GTA 1, 2, 3, and I think 3 was Liberty City, and then they went to Vice City, and then I think there was a 4. It was like it was all over the place, and it was like, and I shouldn't have done that. I don't know, whatever. But all right, guys, we're gonna take off here. Our buddy Brant here is not feeling the greatest. He was sick. I also have this is my Valentine's Day night, so I'm about to take off here and hang out and spend some time with my lady because I didn't get to hang out with her at all on Valentine's Day. So this actually kind of works out. We're going to be taking off here early. Someone was streaming after, I think.
I don't know.
Everyone was talking about Whip streaming at 11 or something like that. Check that out if that's happening.
Yeah. Vibes always streams. You can go check Vibes out.
Go check out Vibes, and then damn, dude, there was someone else I wanted to shout out because I would have sworn I saw someone about to be going live.
Yeah, Whip's going after Vibes.
Oh,
yeah,
going
I
after
saw somebody was saying they might go tonight as well. I forget.
Yeah, dude, and it was lined up for like right after mine, I think. And I was like, man, I need to shout that out when I go up. And I don't know, it had to have been on Fish Family because that's what I checked right before I popped up. And now I feel like I'm obligated to say it. So now give me a second here, and then we'll do that.
So Jeff said Shirley's currently streaming.
Oh, maybe that's what it was.
So
Moneyless Maven?
yeah.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, go check out her stream. We've probably gone over it because I was planning on ending right on the hour, but we had fun.
See,
all right.
I think she was streaming before we even started, so I don't know if she's been going this whole time or what.
Oh, for sure. Well, then, yeah, maybe. Yeah. Well, either way, whatever.
Cool.
Ed said you're Typhoid Mary, so
yeah, I'm a blur on the screen too. I don't know what's going on with my internet tonight. It pissed me off.
Fucking, it was just a off night. Fucking dumbass internet. Fucking, whatever, man. But we did good. We had fun. Yeah. We made hopefully we added a new friend to the group here. I hope he comes around more often because he didn't even know this whole community existed. So now maybe he can find some friends around here. But all right, y'all. I've blabbed on for long enough. Make sure you send me the info for the giveaway winner, and much love to all of you. All right.
Well, see you guys.
For the love. See ya. Oh shit! I was supposed to. God, I suck at ending these streams. I'm gonna.
Don't quit your day job, Kyle.
Yeah, exactly. Feel the love, guys. See ya.
So now it's just me on here. Oh God, Kyle, what'd you do now? All right. Well, I'm gonna end it too. Kyle messed this up. You can make fun of him.